This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Moskowitz, for the very warm and generous introduction. I'm no stranger to Yeshiva Toras Chaim. I actually had the privilege to teach in the Yeshiva about 20 years ago while I was still a Bachar. I had the opportunity to give a Shiur in the high school for a short stint, and it's really amazing to see the Yeshiva's tremendous growth over the last 20 years, their impact on their community through the tremendous chinuch that they've given to generations of students, the impact they've had on the adults through various learning initiatives such as this, a yeshiva with 5 divisions, more than 1,000 talmidim, and it's our humble bracha that the yeshiva continue to be the source of Torah and life to the South Florida community, to the entire Florida community, the United States and beyond, for many happy and healthy years. So I would like to begin tonight's shiur with a very compelling question and a very jarring question. A question we may not dare to ask. However, this question is raised by one of the great Rishonim. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Shabbos on Daf Chaf Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara makes an amazing promise. Says the Gemara, Haragil Bener, one who is accustomed to lighting the candle. And the Mefarshim explain, Rashi, the Marsha, that this candle refers to Ner Chanukah. Haragil Bener, one who is accustomed to lighting the Ner Chanukah. Havyin le banim talmidei chachamim, will have children who are Torah scholars, learned, educated, refined children. What a promise the Gemara makes, that if one is careful to light the Ner Chanukah, one will have children who are Torah scholars, every parent's dream. And the question that we may be thinking and may not be brave enough to ask is a question raised by the son of the Ravid, Rabbeinu Yitzchak Sagi Nahar. Rabbeinu Yitzchak, he was blind, he was the son of the Ravid, and he asks, really? Everybody who lights the Ner Chanukah will be Zoicha, will merit to have children who are Talmidei Chachamim? Is that really the case? Doesn't every observant Jew light the Ner Chanukah? And yet not everyone merits to have sons who are Torah scholars, who are Talmidei Chachamim. Yes, it's everyone's dream, and yet we all light the Ner Chanukah, and not everybody merits to have Banim Talmidei Chachamim. So how do we account for this promise of the Gemara that does not seem to be fulfilled in all situations? Perhaps we would never ask this question on our own, but this in fact is a question raised by one of the great Rishonim, Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahar. Quite interesting. If we were to pinpoint and hone in what exactly is the miracle of Chanukah, then we look no further than perhaps the most celebrated 2 words in all of Talmud Bavli, the most celebrated words in the Gemara, Mai Chanukah. What in fact is Chanukah? And the Gemara goes on to tell us that when the Yevanim entered the Heichal, they contaminated all of the oil in the Heichal. And finally, when we prevailed over the Yevanim, when we prevailed over the Syrian Greeks, and we went back into the Heichal and we searched and we searched and we searched, and we found 1 flask of oil that was enough for 1 night, and they lit that flask of oil, and lo and behold, it lasted for 8 days, for 8 nights and 8 days, and the Gemara says, Lafikach, therefore, B'shano Hacheres, in the following year, Kavam Ba'asam, they established it and they made it, a Yom Tov, B'Halel V'Haida. So here we have it. What is the celebration of Chanukah? What is the Yom Tov of Chanukah? What is the miracle that we commemorate? As Rashi says in that Gemara, Al Eze Nes Kavuha. For what miracle did they establish the miracle of Chanukah? The Gemara says clearly, it was established because of the miracle of the oil. Conspicuously absent from the Gemara is any mention of the military victory. And yet if you would ask somebody randomly, so what was the miracle of Chanukah? What did we really need from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Wouldn't everybody say that it was the military victory that we needed to preserve the safety, the well-being, the spiritual vitality of the Jewish people? Didn't we need God to wage our war? Ravta es Rivam? Didn't we need the military victory? Isn't that a much more important miracle to commemorate it. And in fact, if you look in the Alanisim, the only thing that is mentioned is Rabim Biad Ma'atim, the many in the hands of the few, Timeim Biad Tahirim, Risham Biad Tzadikim. We talk about the military victory. There is absolutely no mention of the miracle of oil, and it would seem to be for good reason, because in the scheme of things, certainly it was the continuity and physical security and safety of the Jewish people that would overshadow any other divine intervention. So, on the one hand, we have this blatant contradiction, where the Gemara says that what is Chanukah, for what miracle do we commemorate? The miracle of the oil, and yet if you look in the Alanisim, the only thing that is mentioned is the military victory. And to bolster the question, to strengthen the question, let's cite perhaps the second most well-known question on Chanukah, namely the question of the Pnei Yeshua, Masechta Shabbos Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, and the question of Shas Tshuvas Chacham Tzvi. They ask, since there is a halachic principle, Tuma Hutra B'Tzibur, that when the majority of the Jewish people are Tameh, we are permitted to perform the Avodah, we're permitted to perform the service in the temple, in the Beis HaMikdash, in a state of impurity. So then, why did we even need the miracle of the oil? We know that God does not make miracles unless they're absolutely necessary. Otherwise, He prefers to run the world in what we call B'derech HaTeva, in the natural course, under the guise of what we refer to as nature. God only performs a miracle if, so to speak, His back is up against the wall, unless He must perform the miracle. So why did God have to perform this miracle? Why did the Ribbon Shalom have to make oil that should have lasted for 1 day last for 8 days? After all, we know that Tumah is Hutra B'Tzibur. If the majority of the Jewish people are Tameh, it is perfectly sufficient. In fact, the Pnei Yeshua adds, it's not even a Hiddur, it's not even beautifying the mitzvah, it's not even an enhanced performance of the mitzvah to do it b'tahara, in purity. So why did the Ribbon Shalom have to make the miracle of the oil? Let alone that should be the miracle focused upon in the Gemara, in Masechta Shabbos, while in the Alanisim, the only thing that is mentioned is the military victory. This week's parsha, Parshas Vayeshev, we read the sad saga of the sale of Yosef HaTzadik. And Yosef is sold down to Mitzrayim. And the Torah records that when the brothers wanted to sell Yosef, they pointed out in the distance, V'hinei orchas Yishmaelim ba'a mi-Gilad. A caravan of Ishmaelites were coming from Gilad. And you know what their camels were laden with? Ugmalehem noiseim nichais v'tzarva. They were carrying aromatic items that smelled good, items that had a very fragrant aroma. And Rashi points out that, wait a second, our cousins, the Yishmaelim, they are not necessarily known for their fragrant aroma. They usually carry itron, tar, which was a foul-smelling item. So why were they carrying these nichais v'loit, these very fragrant spices? And Rashi says that because of the tzaddik Yosef, Hashem wanted him to be able to descend to Mitzrayim in something that smelled pleasant, and something that had a fragrant aroma. But the question is, Yosef probably could not have cared less what the caravan that was kidnapping him smelled like. I mean, let's put this into perspective for a moment. Yosef HaTzadik, just moments ago, was sitting on the top of the world. He's his father's favorite son. His father made him the Ksainis Pasam, the special garments that were a sign of his father's great, intense love for him. Yosef HaTzadik was given over all the traditions that Yaakov Avinu had from Yeshiva Shema Ever. Yosef HaTzadik was sitting on the top of the world. He was his father's favorite son. And now he's being kidnapped and sold. And he's descending to the most decrepit, degenerate, immoral country in the world. Away from his father, away from his family. I guarantee you there were no kosher pizza stores in Mitzrayim. Yosef HaTzadik, his whole life was coming crashing down. His whole life as he knew it was being destroyed. Do you think it really mattered to Yosef HaTzadik what the caravan of the terrorists that were bringing him down to Mitzrayim smelled like? In such a desperate time, it was negligible in the context of what was taking place. Who cares what it smelled like? When God took the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, the pasuk emphasizes, today you're leaving in the month, in the season of the spring. Rashi points out, God is telling the Jewish people, look at the weather. It's not freezing cold. I didn't take you out in the winter time. I'm not talking about a Florida winter. I'm talking about New York winter. I didn't take you out in New York winter. I didn't take you out in the humidity of the summer. I took you out in a perfect season. It was springtime. It was like San Diego. There was a breeze. There was no humidity. Realize my love for you, Klal Yisrael. I took you out on such a beautiful season. As the pasuk says, Moitzi asirim b'koshares. God takes out prisoners just at the right time. And we ask the same question. The Jewish people were just experienced the Holocaust for 210 years. Their babies were taken away from before their eyes. They were built into pyramids. They were used as bricks. They were cemented into the buildings. 2.4 million Jews were murdered in Egypt. Do you think the Jewish people cared what the weather was like when they were being liberated from that Gehenna? Do you think the Jewish people cared that it wasn't raining outside? I guarantee you, they would have been singing in the rain had God taken them out of Egypt in the rain or in the snow or in any weather. My grandfather, Harav Mordechai Leib Glatstein, shall live and be well. He's a survivor of all the infamous death camps. When he was liberated from Dachau in 1945, do you think he cared about the weather? Do you think it even registered on these prisoners, on these skeletons, what the weather was like? Why is the Torah emphasizing that, look, hayoim atem yotzim b'chodesh ha'aviv? Now let's think about this for a moment. How much time, how much good weather did the Jewish people experience when they left Egypt? Well, Chazal tell us that at the moment that they were supposed to leave Mitzrayim, they were all miraculously gathered to Ramses. And from there they traveled to Sukkos. Now, the moment they arrived at Sukkos, Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says they were surrounded by Ananei HaKavod, which was like a climate-controlled bubble, which protected them from sun, which warmed them from cold, which protected them from the elements. They were completely sheltered in this climate-controlled bubble of clouds of glory. So the only time the Jewish people could have even experienced good weather would have been from Ramses to Sukkos. How long of a trip is it from Ramses to Sukkos? Well, actually, it's a pretty formidable trip. It's quite a distance. Rashi says it's 120 mil. However, we know they needed their dough in Ramses, and they could not allow it to become chametz. By the time they got to Sukkos, Chazal say that a miracle happened. They got to Sukkos in under 18 minutes. So, friends, the Torah is pointing out, my Jewish people, look what a beautiful day it is. I'm taking you out in springtime. Do you know how much time the Jewish people could have been basking in the good weather? Less than machine or hand matzah. Less than 18 minutes. And that's what the Torah is emphasizing? Look outside. It's a breezy, balmy day. Who cares? Who cares what the weather was? And it was such a short amount of time. Why the emphasis on the good weather? Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz in the Madura Chadasha, in a new edition of the Sichos Musar, says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, it's much more than a good smell. And it's a lot more than nice, pleasant weather. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, when Yosef was going down to Mitzrayim, Yosef was in danger of feeling, of thinking, that the Rebbeinu Shalom forgot about him, that he was being abandoned, that he was being forsaken. And all of a sudden, Yosef, wait a second, these Yishmaelim are carrying a good smelling substance. They usually carry foul smelling substance. You know what that good smell will do to Yosef? It will completely change his perspective on what's occurring. He'll say to himself, the Rebbeinu Shem is not abandoning me. The Rebbeinu Shem is not forsaking me. This is like a flash of light in the dark world of Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef sees this ray of light and now he feels the Rebbeinu Shem is not forsaking me. The Rebbeinu Shem is not abandoning me. The Rebbeinu Shem is taking me by the hand and he's leading me down to Mitzrayim. He's with me. He must have an important plan. I must have a mission going down to Mitzrayim. That isolated smell is not an isolated chesed. It completely changes Yosef's perspective of what is transpiring. The Rebbeinu Shem has not forgotten about me. The Rebbeinu Shem is walking me down to Mitzrayim. He's taking me, he's leading me down to Mitzrayim. He has a great mission for me. The greatest gift in the history of the Jewish people were the miraculous events of the Exodus of Yetzias Mitzrayim. However, if you love someone and you want to give them a gift, so you go to your wife and it's your 50th anniversary, and she says, so, after all these years, what'd you get me? And you say, you know what I got you? To express my love for you. And you pull out of a paper bag a invaluable diamond ring. I mean, it's worth $25,000. And you pull it out of a paper bag and you hand it to your wife. Yeah, I guarantee you, she'll take the ring. But there was something a little bit lacking in that gift. Not the purchase price. That you went all out. There was something lacking in the presentation. And sometimes there is an intangible quality of the presentation of a gift that demonstrates endearment, love, chavivos. So when you take that diamond ring and you put it in a nice pretty box and you wrap it in elegant wrapping paper and you put a bow around it, did the box that you put the ring in, did the wrapping paper, did the bow, did it increase the value of the diamond ring? It did not increase its value. Ki huza. It did not go up in value, even one iota, even 1 penny. However, there's this intangible quality that you added to the gift, the love, the endearment. That added touch makes all the difference in the world. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, and this is also brought out in the Sefer Samdarach of Reb Simcha Zisel Broida. God gave us a beautiful gift, an invaluable gift. How could we ever repay Him enough? Almost every mitzvah we do every single day of our life is to remember the great gift of the Exodus of Egypt. Be it our tzitzis, be it our tefillin, be it the observance of Shabbos, be it walking out of every door and having mezuzah on the door, be it Kiddush Friday night, be it Sukkah, be it Pesach. Women work so hard to prepare for Pesach, showing gratitude to the Lord, to the Rabbi Shalom, for taking us out of Mitzrayim. That gift is invaluable. Nothing could be added to the retail value of that gift except for, says Rabbi Shalom, let me wrap that gift for you. Let me give you that gift with love, with ahava rabba, with ahavas oilam. I'm going to take you out of Egypt, not in the winter time, not in the summertime. I'm going to wrap up that gift with such elegant wrapping paper, with such a bow to show my love for you. I don't just want to bestow upon you kindness. I'm going to do it bi ahava uvechiba. And that is the beautiful weather that we experienced when we left Mitzrayim. It's not the weather. It didn't make the Exodus more enjoyable, but it did, because we got a gift from God with love. That is the intangible quality of the weather. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, there was a family that they had an heirloom. They had a jewel that's been passed down for many, many generations, going back to the 1500s. And everybody knew that this jewel could not be priced. There's no way to evaluate this wonderful jewel, this invaluable jewel. And they lost the jewel. They didn't know where it went. It was lost for days, for weeks. And one of the children was jumping on the mattress, and he gave a big jump, and out of the mattress flew the lost treasure. And he comes running to his father, and everyone's ecstatic. And the father and the mother, they're jumping for joy. They thought it was lost. This was passed down for generations. And the father goes over and he kisses his child. Everyone is so happy that the jewel has been found, but that child is extra happy because that child received a kiss from his father. And that's something that money can't buy. Says Rabbi Chaim Chanukah is celebrating the miracle that we needed more than anything else, and that's the military victory. Our lives were in danger. Our religion was in jeopardy. The ability to observe Shabbos, the ability to observe Bris Milah, the ability to observe many mitzvos. We were being threatened by Hellenism, by the Greek culture, and we needed so badly the military victory. But God says, let me give you this gift, not just because I have to, and not just because you need it. I'm going to give you this gift. I'm going to wrap it in the most elegant paper. I'm going to put a bow around it. I'm going to add to this miracle something, you know what? Maybe you don't really need. You could have gotten away with lighting the menorah with tamei oil. After all, tumah is hutra b'tzibor. But I'm going to give you an added intangible gift to demonstrate that this military victory, I'm not just bestowing upon you because I need to and you need it. I'm giving it to you with love. This is the miracle of the oil was the wrapping paper. The miracle of the oil was the bow around the gift. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, the miracle of the oil was the kiss from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And as ecstatic as we are that the Rebbeinu Shalom saved our life, but there's this intangible happiness that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave it to us with love. He gave it to us bi'ahava uvechiba. He gave it to us with a kiss. And that is something that money cannot buy. That is something that we have no way to show enough gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, when we examine the Gemara Masechta Shabbos, that talks about the formulation and the legislation of the Yom Tov of Chanukah, we encounter something mind-boggling. It's a Gemara we've read so many times in our life. Look at the language of the Gemara. The Gemara says, Lefikach, the next year, Kavam, they established it, Va'asam, and they made it, Yamim Tovim, holiday, Behalel, but through the recitation of Halel, V'Haidah, and thanking Hashem. Do we ever realize what perek in Masechta Shabbos this Gemara is? It's in Bameh Madlikin. Why is this in Bameh Madlikin? Because since we're talking about the lighting of the Ner Shabbos, so Agav Orcha, as a side point, we speak about the lighting of the menorah. So what mitzvah do you think the Gemara that speaks about Chanukah should emphasize and highlight more than anything else? The Gemara should say, therefore the next year they made a Yom Tov for the recitation of Hallel and thanking Hashem, uvahadlakas hamenorah, and lighting the menorah. And glaringly absent, conspicuously absent from the formulation of Chanukah in Talmud Bavli is there is no mention whatsoever that they established the Yom Tov to light the menorah. What happened to the lighting of the menorah? Look in the Rambam. The Rambam in Hilchos Chanukah, Parag Gimel, Halacha Gimel, when he codifies this Gemara, when he is ma'atik, the words of this Gemara, he tells us the story that the Yevanim entered the Heichal, and they contaminated the Heichal, and they established on the 25th day of Kislev to do the following. Says the Rambam, what do we do on the 25th day of Kislev? We Yemei Simcha, days of happiness. The Hallel, and the recitation of Hallel. Now, Hallel is in the Gemara. Umadlikin b'hananeros, and we light the menorah. So the Rambam got it right. The Rambam writes, Chanukah was formulated to light the menorah. But interestingly, the Rambam omits that which the Gemara says, that Chanukah was formulated to thank Hashem. So there's something inconsistent here. Rabbi Eliyahu Mizrahi, in his commentary to The Smag asks, why did the Gemara omit the most important mitzvah of Chanukah, namely the lighting of the menorah? And Rav Betzalel Zolti in the Mishnah Siavitz wants to know, why has the Rambam omitted that which the Gemara says, that Chanukah was formulated to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and yet the Rambam omits that and instead substitutes that with Umadlikin es HaMenorah? The key to understanding this Rambam lies in the words of another comment of the Rambam. The Rambam makes an astounding statement. The Rambam in Hilchos Chanukah, Perek Dalet, Halacha Yud Beis says, Mitzvahs ner Chanukah, mitzvah chavivahi ad ma'od. The mitzvah of lighting the menorah is very beloved. V'tzarch adam li zarba, a person has to be careful in it in order to publicize the miracle. And if you don't have what to eat, you should borrow or sell your clothing and purchase oil to light the menorah. The Rambam says, lighting the menorah is a mitzvah chavivahi ad ma'od. And I ask you, friends, indeed it is very beloved, but the Rambam does not use such an expression by any other mitzvah in the Torah. Tefillin is d'oraisa, and nowhere does the Rambam say it's a very beloved mitzvah. How about Shabbos? How about mezuzah? How about Tefillin? How about tzitzis? How about sukkah? Aren't these very beloved mitzvos? I'm sure they are. But the Rambam makes no comment about how beloved they are to God. And yet when it comes to the mitzvah of the menorah, the Rambam feels that it's important to convey to the Jewish people that this is a mitzvah chaviva hi admod. What is so beloved? What is so endearing? Why does God love the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah so much? It's only the Rabbanan. Even laning the Megillah on Purim, which is the Rabban, the Rambam doesn't say it's a mitzvah chaviva admod. What exactly is it about lighting the menorah that it is such a beloved mitzvah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Well, Rav Betzalel Zolti in the Mishnah Siavitz, as well as Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach in the Mincha Shloimeh, they both formulate the same approach to understanding the light of lighting the menorah, which will, God willing, give us a much deeper insight into the importance of the mitzvah of lighting the menorah, and give us an insight in how we can merit to have the nachas from our children. The nachas we're all hoping for, the nachas we all pray for, the nachas we all yearn for, and we beseech HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He should answer our tefillos, that indeed we should be zocha to have children, banum uvnei banim, oiskem atar v'mitzvos. Says Rabbi Tzalel Zolti, the key to understanding why the Gemara omits the mitzvah of lighting the menorah, the key to understanding why the Rambam does include the mitzvah of lighting the menorah and omits that which the Gemara says that Chanukah was formulated to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, lies in a comment of a Rishon, the Chidushe Riaz, one of the Rishonim, the Riaz. The Riaz says the following expression. When the Riaz codifies the Gemara, Masechta Shabbos, the Riaz writes, Kavum va'asam sa'am shmaniyam, they formulate and establish 8 days. Shegoimrim b'hemes halal, that we complete the halal as mentioned. Umoidim al hanes b'hadlakas haneros, and we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the lighting of the menorah. Wow. The Riaz is revealing to us that the way, the manner with which we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu on Chanukah. By the way, this is different than Rashi. Rashi on the Gemara says we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu by reciting Al Hanisim. But the Rambam clearly does not learn that way, because the Rambam has no mention of the recitation of Al Hanisim in Hilchos Chanukah. Instead, it is clear the Rambam understands the purpose of lighting the menorah is, as the Riaz explains, that the manner in which we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the way with which we express our gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is by lighting the menorah. So in fact, the Gemara does reference the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. The Gemara says, we thank Hashem. Comes the Rambam, and the Rambam explains with which act, with which mitzvah do we express our gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We do so through the lighting of the menorah. In other words, the Gemara is telling us the objective of lighting the menorah, And the Rambam is telling us the practical step that we take through which we express our gratitude. There's no contradiction. The Gemara did not leave out lighting the menorah, and the Rambam did not leave out the mitzvah of gratitude. Instead, Divrei Torah, aniyim b'makom echad v'ashirim b'makom acher. The Gemara is telling us the overarching objective, and the Rambam is explaining how that is fulfilled. The overarching objective is showing gratitude to Hashem. The manner with which we show our gratitude is by lighting the menorah. Says Rav Betzalel Zolti, says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, in this sense, lighting the menorah is different from every other mitzvah in the Torah. Every other mitzvah in the Torah, or even Rabbanan, we do the mitzvah because God said so. And yes, we always have accompanying feelings of gratitude to Hashem. But the purpose of the mitzvah is in no way an expression of our gratitude. We do it because God said so. There is in fact only one mitzvah that the express purpose, the express function and objective of the mitzvah is to express our gratitude to Hashem, and that is the mitzvah of Hadlakas HaMenorah. Says the Riyaz, Umoidim al hanes bahadlakas haneros. And therefore, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says a wondrous chiddush. Even though we know if somebody is away, technically if their wife lights the menorah for them, they're yotzei the mitzvah. But says Rav Shlomo Zalman, they may only be yotzei the dry act of the mitzvah. But if the husband does not supply his own feelings of gratitude to the mitzvah, chasar ha'ikr, they are missing the main component of lighting the menorah. In fact, says Rabbi Tzalel Zolti, lehalacha, says Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, lehalacha, since mitzvos require kavanah, and especially this mitzvah of lighting the menorah, that the whole purpose of the mitzvah is that it should be an expression of gratitude. If one lights the menorah on Chanukah, and they have great kavanah in the bracha, and they light it fulfilling all the details of the Mishnah Berurah. By the way, one of those details I'm going to mention very quickly is the Bir Halacha writes, Hadlaka Oisa Mitzvah, which means that it's not enough just to merely kindle the flame onto the wick and then pull it away, but one has to actually hold the candle on the wick that's going to burn until the majority of the flame that will burn catches fire. In other words, it cannot catch on its own. One has to literally hold the candle on it until it catches. That's what the Bir Halacha says Hadlaka Oisa Mitzvah means. So a person learns all the Mishnah Berurahs, and all the Sifim and Shulchan Aruch, and all the Bir Halachas, and all the Sharat Tzioins, and is careful in all the minutia of lighting the menorah, but he forgot to think that they're lighting the menorah for the express function of expressing gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, says Rav Tzalel Zolti, one has not fulfilled the purpose of Ner Chanukah. Chasar ha'ikr lo yatsa yidei chayvasai b'shleimus. You have not fully fulfilled the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. Says Rabbi Yerucham Olshan, now we could understand, and we could come to answer, and have a greater appreciation for the question and response of Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahar. After all, Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahar wondered, the Gemara promises that Haragil B'ner, anyone who is careful in lighting the Ner Chanukah, will merit children who are Talmidei Chachamim, children who are Torah scholars. And Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahar asks, everybody lights the menorah, come on, what observant Jew doesn't light the menorah? And yet not everyone is zocha to this great bracha of Banim Talmidei Chachamim. And Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahar, his answer is, well, not everyone is careful in all the details of lighting the menorah. But asks Rabbi Yerucham Olshan, there are today, Baruch Hashem, there are so many very learned Jews that are punctilious and are careful in every detail of lighting the menorah. So why doesn't everybody have children who are Talmidei Chachamim? And the answer, says Rabbi Yerucham Olshan, based on this chiddush of Rabbi Tzalel Zolti, based on this chiddush of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, is that it could be there are many people who are knowledgeable in the minutia of how to light the menorah. But there are few people whose lighting of the menorah is a genuine expression of gratitude to the Creator of the universe for the miracle of Chanukah and for all the incalculable and innumerable blessings that Hashem bestows upon us. So yes, if a child comes home and he sees his father and mother are lighting the menorah at exactly the right time, with the precise amount of oil, following all the details, yet the child could tell, is my parent so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that his or her lighting of the menorah is just a deep expression of their gratitude and their thankfulness to Hashem? A child who sees the deep gratitude of their parent and how they light the menorah, and that lighting of the menorah is a genuine expression of Hakaras HaTov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that child will see the real relationship that their parent has with Hashem. That child has just been given the greatest key to embark upon and to pursue the great achievement of becoming a Talmid Chacham. You know why the lighting of the menorah is the most beloved mitzvah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? You know why it's mitzvah chaviva hi ad ma'od? Well, as explained by Rabbi Rucham Olshen, if we were to narrow down, we, from Jews, observant Jews, all Jews, we have many responsibilities. We have 613 mitzvahs, and beyond that we have so many mitzvahs d'Rabbanan and halachos. But if we would sort of narrow it down, what are we here for? What does Ribbono Shel Olam want for us? What is our mission in this world? What is our mission statement? What is if we could hone in on, what should be our singular objective in our relatively short stay in Olam Hazeh? We're all familiar with the historic words of the Ramban. The Ramban writes in the end of Parshas Bo that if we were to narrow down, if we were to summarize, encapsulate, what is it that is our responsibility in Olam Hazeh, says the Ramban, we have to be so careful in even the smallest mitzvah, like the most chamor mitzvah. Says the Ramban, Shebechol Shah Adam Moida Behen Leilaka, because any small mitzvah you do, you are acknowledging and thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Ramban, the kavanas kol ha-mitzvahs, the intention of all mitzvahs, is shenamin belokeinu, is to believe in our God, v'noida elav, and thank Him, shehu baranu, that He created us. The purpose of all the mitzvahs in the Torah, talis, tefillin, Shabbos, Sukkah, Kiddush, Shiluach HaKain, Talmud Torah, the purpose of all the mitzvahs is that we should recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us and we should thank Him. But the Ramban takes it further. This is not only the kavanah of all the mitzvahs, this is the kavanah of all of creation in its entirety. That God has no other desire in creation other than that we should know Him, v'yoda leilakav shabarai, and acknowledge and thank Hashem that He created us. So really, the function and the purpose and the objective of all mitzvahs is, Hashem, thank you for creating me. Thank you for making me. Thank you for giving me the ability to think and to understand and to see and to hear. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my wife. Thank you for my husband, for my children, for my yeshiva, for Yeshiva Toras Chaim. Thank you for the Jewish people. Thank you for the Torah. That is the purpose of all the mitzvahs. But listen to this secret. While that is the overarching purpose of all the mitzvahs, yet there is one mitzvah that the sole function of that mitzvah is a direct expression of gratitude to Hashem. So while talis and tefillin, we do them because God said so. And yet there's an overarching objective of thanking Hashem. There's one act that we do, 8 days a year. That direct message of that mitzvah, the direct purpose of that mitzvah, it is the most directed expression of fulfilling our purpose on planet Earth. And that is the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. The mitzvah of lighting the menorah is the most direct way that a Jew fulfills his and her mission and function in Olam Hazeh. Because, as the Riaz writes, Umoide elav bahadlakas hamenorah, the lighting of the menorah is the most direct expression of gratitude to Hashem, of all the mitzvahs that we do. And therefore the Rambam says, mitzvahs ner Chanukah, mitzvah chaviva hi ad ma'od. It is such a beloved mitzvah to Hashem, because it is our great opportunity to say, Rebbeinu Shalom, we get it. We say to you, thank you for making us, thank you for saving us, thank you for giving us Torah and mitzvahs, thank you for everything. Thank you, Hashem. That is the message of lighting the menorah. If we are missing that, the poskim say there is something deficient in our fulfillment of the mitzvah. But, says Rabbi Yitzchak Sagi Nahar, if we are careful to light the menorah properly, with all of its minutiae, and especially if it's accompanied by genuine feelings of gratitude, then we are vouchsafed the haftacha, the promise of the Gemara, haragil bener, one who lights that menorah, havyin le banim talmidei chachamim, will have children who are Torah scholars. And especially on a Yom Tov of Chanukah, where the miracle of the oil is the greatest gift imaginable. It is literally a kiss from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we light that menorah, let us accompany it with genuine feelings of Hakaras HaTov, and the Rebbeinu Shalom will surely bless all of our families with the greatest possible blessing, and that is children, banim ubanos, wonderful children, God-fearing children, balei midos toivos, banim talmidei chachamim. Wishing everyone a freilich and Chanukah. Thank you so much.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.